Hey everybody, I'm Pastor Nick and you're watching Helpful Hebrew, where we learn a new Hebrew word every day. Over the past several days, we've been learning the first few lines of the book of Genesis, the very first words in the Bible. And so far, what we've learned is Bereshit bara Elohim et hashemayim ve'et haaretz, v'haaretz hayta tohu vavohu, v'choshech al pnei tahom, v'ruach. So our word for today is Ruach. And actually it says Ruach Elohim, which means the Ruach of God, which the Spirit of God. So Ruach means spirit. It can also mean wind or breath. So the breath of God, the Spirit of God, the wind of God. And depending on what Bible translation you look at, you might see any of these things printed there. Now, it might seem a little strange to think, well, why would spirit and wind and breath all be the same word? But, if you really think about it, I think it kind of makes sense. So I think about the wind, right? We can't see the wind, but we can feel the wind on our skin. We can see it moving, let's say the leaves in the trees. You can see the effects of it, even though we can't see it. And with breath, you can imagine, right? With breath, breath is what gives us life. And if we're not breathing, then we're not alive. And so you can see how the spirit is a similar kind of thing, right? Maybe we can feel it, but we can't see it. And also without it, we would not be alive, but that spirit gives us life, much like the breath gives us life. So here we have the spirit or the breath of God. Another place we can find this in the Old Testament is in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37. You may have heard the story of the vision that Ezekiel has of the valley of dry bones, right? Ezekiel has this vision where God sets him down in this great valley full of just bones scattered everywhere, and says, "Hey Ezekiel, can these bones live?" And Ezekiel says, "Well, I don't know. You're the one who knows, God." And then he watches as God sort of takes the bones and puts them back together and puts flesh on them, and it says the breath or the spirit, the ruach, entered into them and they were alive again. So there we can see both the spirit entering into those who were resurrected, and also the breath entering in quite literally, so that they can breathe and they can live. So that is ruach. Now there are a few words in this verse that we did not get to, but if we had, then the whole verse of this whole section of scripture would say, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering upon the surface of the water." Well, that's all the time we've got for today. Join us again next week. We're going to make a little bit of a shift, and we're going to start looking at some Bible verses in Deuteronomy. So join us again next week as we learn some more helpful Hebrew.